still on the internet. Of course he is. But that's not too... it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Gotten suddenly chilly, so now I'm snuggled. I'm well wrapped up. I might have to get more wrapped up though if I'm getting more chilly. And I've done something terrible to my arm. I've done something terrible to my arm. And we'll see how I'm going to hold this book in this one. See how it works. My whole right arm is just incredibly unhappy with me. Wonder when does it switch to it switches to online event. It switches to online pretty soon, doesn't it? Oh no, we do have people here. Oh, okay. Usually my stats switch faster than that. From offline to online. But hello Peaches and hello Ratgloss. Very good. Oh, thank you Ratgloss. I did quite like this one, and I made it very quickly, so I feel like I did a good job. Amenzacy, hello, welcome in. Excellent. Yes, I do quite like it. I do quite like today's meme. But it's just very childish of him. It really is. And there's Des. Lovely. Excellent. Des is making cornbread, which makes me very tender at the idea of people making food whilst listening to this for some reason. Let me snuggle myself up. Yes, we all love Hammer. We all love Hammer. Is it Hammer or Hammer? Or I don't know. One of those. One of those. He's a good boy anyway. Either way, he's a good boy. Yeah. Yes, so we've got Hammer. Hammer's coming up real fast, and then we've got our Gandalf song, which again, very awkward that he does it right. Like it's a real awkward place for him to put a song. It's almost like Tolkien felt like, okay, well, we're not going to have another song for a while, so I do need to give them a song of some kind. But I found quite a nice rendition for it, even though it's quite short, so that'll be fine. And I'll sing it for you for the first time in a while. I will sing a song for everyone. I'm pressed about the Hussy Faramir post taking off again. There are people who are calling him empathetic, and I know I've said this in the chat before, but they are calling him empathetic, and it just riles me up so much. Like, Book Faramir never shows even the faintest hint of empathy in the whole time we know him. Like, at no point do we get an empathetic Faramir or any kind of, like, it's what, like, if you wanted to call, like realistically speaking, most of the characters in Tolkien are not soft. Like, people keep calling the men soft, like, oh, Tolkien allows the men to be soft. Well, no, he allows them to express certain emotions that are like there are certain, like, approved emotions, but the emotions that are approved, there are more of them. So Aragorn can cry at Boromir's death, and yes, we're allowed some amount of physical tenderness and stuff, but in general I wouldn't call that, it doesn't really push the characters towards soft. It just kind of pushes them more towards physical affection, which doesn't but it's got there's an odd flavor to it that doesn't technically make it soft. But Faramir, like Faramir's soft if like Faramir is the least soft out of all of them. Like, so we get Aragorn crying at Boromir's death scene, and we get him admitting that he's wrong at various times, and we get like even stuck up Aragorn is technically more soft and more empathetic than Faramir is, or at least of what we see of him, essentially. Yeah, like the thing is that like Faramir in the films and Faramir in the books, just like every other character, are incomparable. There is no way to compare Faramir in the books to Faramir in the films because they're just simply different characters. They really have nothing in common with each other. They don't have the same relationships with the people around them. They don't have the same drives. They don't have the same personality. They don't have the same ideals or ideologies, and they certainly don't have the same capabilities. Like Faramir, basically Faramir just has to be an arsehole if he's also going to be a capable military warrior. They basically just swap. They're just like, okay, well, if Faramir is allowed to be nice, then then he has to be bad, he has to be a bad military leader. but if he's an arsehole, then he can be good. Yeah, no, literally. Well, I mean, but like, David Wenham has very soft eyes. Me and Dessa were talking about this. David Wenham has very soft eyes. He has a very soft voice. I said to Dess, I said, he gets this kind of slight lisp when he's trying to pretend that he isn't Australian. So, like when you hear him, he has this very soft, tender voice. Also, the way he delivers everything is very measured, and it's always at a lower pitch, and he's playing up being very soft. But like, he's also like completely spineless. Like, Faramir in the film is so spineless. He has just so like Faramir in the film. I mean, I guess because they just went full on into him being just a completely abused child for the whole time. But it just makes everything so confused when they still maintain the relationships that Boromir has with his father, and then Faramir also is also a captain as well. Like, he's trusted to be a captain despite his father's obvious disapproval of him, or blatant hatred of him, and like it just makes everything so much stranger and so much more. It just makes nothing makes sense anymore in that relationship or family. So yes. Oh, who have we got? We've got. Sorry, yes, I forgot to say what people were saying. Peaches says, I don't even think you can say soft boy. Film Faramir is empathetic even then. Like, this is all just so. My dude, are we watching the same films? Are we reading the same books? Yeah, I know. Honeybee says it's because Faramir is a waif of a man with an elfin face in the movies, and it gave everyone brain rot. I mean, that's true too. Yeah, yeah. 7 Stars 7 Stone says, hello. Yay! I get to hear Faramir being talked about. Yes, we're here to bash Faramir because I just can't. I can't with people and their their misinterpretations about Faramir. It's just strange because we've just come into this thing where the fandom has this weird dissonant cross belief about Faramir, in that he has the same military capability and acumen as book Faramir, and yet all of the backbone of film Faramir, which is none, by the way. and it's just so, because people will do that, but then they won't edit anything else around him, so nothing else changes around Faramir. So he's this kind of weird mashed together character that has very little. It's just very unthought. It's very thoughtless the way people do it, and it galls me. Especially because people keep on coming up to oh, but Faramir likes elves and he likes books and poetry and that makes him soft and like unique and stuff. And I'm like, no, it doesn't make him soft or unique. Gondor is a philosopher nation. That's been their whole modus operandi most of this time. Like they've only recently, like within the last, like, I would say 30 to 40 years, almost like the times when it's been the worst for war and for them, only now have they started actually idolizing warriors and war. Because they're at war and they literally are going to all die very soon. So of course, this is how it's gonna happen. But now we're in this situation where Faramir is supposedly this unique baby who is just breaking stereotypes, breaking masculine stereotypes left, right, and center. When that is the masculine stereotype for Gondor. to be a philosopher. Boromir is considered unusual for the fact that he doesn't go in for the more erudite, academic kind of idolization that Gondor is in for. His dad, like Faramir and Denethor are of a piece. They're the more usual ones. You don't get introduced. Like, you get introduced to Faramir as being the greater in various academia and being very greater in cunning. But you don't get it. It's not like they're like, oh well, Faramir and Denethor were unusual because they were both into books. Like, that's not what it's about or like. Boromir's the one who is the unusual one. He's the one that will get teased most of the time. But he doesn't mind because he's trying to win a fucking war and he doesn't give a shit. Sorry. Hannabook. I'm sorry, I need to pay more attention to the chat. Hannabook says, I just went in and the first thing I heard was Boromir and Aragorn and Faramir, and that just made me so happy. Well, welcome in! Have you been here before? We're very grateful to have you. Lovely to have you. I'm sorry if you wanted to hear nice things about Faramir or Aragorn, because you aren't going to, but I'm glad you're here. Welcome. 7*7 says, yes, exactly. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. It's all scrambled, and the complexity of the family dynamics. It also drives me crazy. If you couldn't tell, it drives me a little crazy. It drives me just a little crazy. Peaches says, I've begun to be excited about watching the Hobbit films only by virtue of having this energy directed to things I know more about than Faramir. Oh yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, we can really delve into that one. Yes. Well, I mean, but this time you will know more than me because I have yet to reread The Hobbit in at least a decade. I would say probably a decade. It's been a really long time. It never caught me the same. There just isn't any politics. There's just not enough politics for me. And Dale isn't like Thranduil is too as he is. No politics. It's just not. I mean, admittedly, my favorite bit of The Hobbit is when Thranduil is like, "What were you doing in the forest?" And then Thorin is like, "We were lost and we were looking for food. We were being hungry and we were starving in the forest." That was a good bit. 7 stars, 7 stones says, Faramir is stubborn and headstrong. He is not soft, and he's a snob. Yes, it's true. It's true. It's just, it's so mind-blowing to me because everything that Faramir says, at any moment when Faramir has any dialogue at all, at any point in the book, he is saying something along the lines of, I'm so clever / noble, and Boromir, of course, though I love him very much. Well, no, he actually doesn't say that. Boromir, of course, though maybe he was a good man, I don't know, was so dumb and was far too reckless, not like me, because I'm too noble for that. I also just think that everyone in my country is just falling to the dogs. They're just becoming too much like the Rohirrim. I can't, it's terrible. It's terrible what's happening to my country at the moment. And it's just, it's, or, hello, father, grieving father, hello. It's your fault Boromir's dead. It's your fault Boromir's dead. And also you're doing a bad job, and also, I'm definitely not going to support you in front of this wizard. Gandalf literally looks Denethor in the eye and says, like, admittedly Faramir says it beforehand, but he says it to hobbits. Gandalf looks Denethor dead in the eye and says, Boromir's better off dead. And Faramir doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything, because I guess because he'd said it before. He'd said it to Sam, and he said maybe it's better that Boromir died then. Oh dear. Peter says it really does just feel like the fandom spends way too much time projecting real-world concepts onto Gondor to think about actuality of the situation. It really does. It's one of the most galling parts about it. It's like for example, it's what makes people have this assumption that Gondor is like this weird medieval fantasy European mush, when it's just so much more. Like it's simply incapable of being that for a variety of reasons that just turn it so away from any empire we've ever known, really. Oh, hello Lilith Hedgehog, lovely to have you in. Great, excellent. Don't worry about interrupting. You're not going to be interrupting. Certainly, I'm impossible to interrupt when I am on my bullshit. So. Honeybee says, as my dad says, The Hobbit is a child's book, so don't expect Lord of the Rings style goodness. Yep, essentially. I mean, it makes sense. Hannah Beck says, I've been here like the first time you read, and then I just never had the time to return, but I'm glad to be back. Well, I'm glad you're back as well. Yes, we're all very glad to have you back. It's very nice. It's lovely having people come in and out. I mean, and realistically speaking, I'm more doing. It's nice to have them streamed and have people talk to about it, but in general, it's best when to listen to them all on the YouTube playlist. That's pretty good. I listen to myself back often because I forget things that I say a lot. So I'll listen back to me reading the Lord of the Rings, and then I'll say something about something that I thought of whilst reading, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. I totally forgot that I said that. It's quite useful. It means I can get my ducks squared away. My ducks in a row. Yeah, Peter says, yeah, we don't get into social political tensions in The Hobbit because of the fairy story. Little Hedgehog says, I just assume that Bilbo in The Hobbit is just too dense to pick up all the complicated shit going on. He just thinks they're on a jolly to commit a crime. I think... Hannabeck says, I also just read that you've reached Edoras, and obviously I had to join then. Yes. I'm quite excited to read Edoras. In fact, we're nearly 20 minutes in, so maybe we shall start. I'm afraid I didn't manage to get the Helm's Deep walking video done, but possibly that won't be an issue. We might just get to Helm's Deep and not actually start the battle. So we'll see. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to try doing the battle for a walking scene. For the walking video, because there are you can jump between the timeline of in Lord of the Rings Online. You can jump between the timeline of the battle to see how Helm's Deep changes, and you know it's quite atmospheric and good. But the kind of the best way to do it would probably be to try. No, that's probably not true. It would be quite good if we could play a few of the big battles to show you all the, because they really do it very good. Like the big battles for Helm's Deep, even if they're a little bit boring, they're very well done in terms of like explaining the progression of the battle. Like you do go from the dike, and then you get to the wall, and then the wall explodes, and then you do the glittering caves, and then you do the final. There's a final one after that. I can't remember what it is. Is that it? The dike, the deeping wall, glittering caves. There's one more, I'm sure. We don't have any Lord of the Rings Online players on, do we have at the moment? I'm sure there's another big battle for it. Never mind. Let's get going. Peter says, or we can go to the usual 30 minutes. You're allowed to drag me. It's true. That is usual. That is the usual timeline. Because it's been so long, I probably had preamble material to talk about in this section last time I read, but I've forgotten it all by now. So you all are very lucky. We're only going for 20 minutes, not 30. Honeybee says Bilbo is the Harry Potter of Middle-earth in terms of main character denseness. Is he? Yes, but more charming. Honeyback is right. He is more charming. Is he very dense? I mean, I guess I always kind of thought that Bilbo was quite clever, or at least had an amount of sense to him. He was quite sensible, I always imagined, in my head. I mean, I suppose it's not particularly sensible to go off with 13 strangers, but anyway, let's go. Ah, damn it, we're already in Fangorn. That's not particularly. I keep leaving this to run. Let's see if we. No, hang on. Can I restart this? How do I restart it? There we go. That's more correct for where we are. Although we would have gotten to it. Never mind. Okay. Where did we get to? I think we got to. Yep, I think we got to here. Yes, we get a few horses on this walk, but not as many as there should be. I think somewhere, yeah, like towards, especially towards the Fen March. Nope, other way. Especially towards the Entwash, the source of the Entwash. You get more. Oh, thank you, Honeybee. That's very kind of you. Yeah, but towards the Entwash you get like herds of horses running around, and you can find Shadowfax up there, which is quite nice. You can find Shadowfax up there riding with a bunch of herds of horses. But anyway, the dark gates were swung open. The travellers entered, walking in file behind their guide. They found a broad path paved with hewn stones, now winding upward, now climbing in short flights of well-laid steps. Many houses built of wood, and many dark doors they passed. Beside the way, in a stone channel, a stream of clear water flowed, sparkling and chattering. At length they came to the crown of the hill. There stood a high platform above a green terrace, at the foot of which a bright spring gushed from a stone carved in the likeness of a horse's head. Beneath was a wide basin from which the water spilled and fed the falling stream. Up the green terrace went a stair of stone, high and broad, and on either side of the topmost step were stone-hewn seats. There sat other guards, with drawn swords laid upon their knees. Their golden hair was braided on their shoulders. The sun was blazoned upon their green shields. Their long corselets were burnished bright, and when they rose taller, they seemed than mortal men. I quite like this description because it's very much against Peter Jackson's image of Edoras. Like there's a stone fountain carved in a horse's head, and also I really like the fact that the Rohirrim were like, well, the guards are going to have to be there for a while. We'll give them chairs. We'll carve chairs for them out of stone, and then we'll give them that. It's nice. It's very. It's obviously the union, the Rohirrim guard union. Yes, also the braided hair. I miss the braided hair very much. I miss Theoden's really fucking long beard as well. I feel like we were robbed of Theoden's very long beard. Although Tolkien did like men tucking their beards into their belts quite a lot. It's one of his favourite things. But yes, it's like this big, like, majestic, impressive. It's almost like it's been here for 500 years. Like, even Rohan is like hundreds of years older than most countries that we know of, but never mind. There are the doors before you, said the guard. I must return now to my duty at the gate. Farewell, and may the Lord of the Mark be gracious to you. He turned and went swiftly back down the road. The others climbed the long stair under the eyes of the tall watchman. Silent they stood now above and spoke no word, until Gandalf stepped out from upon the paved terrace at the stair's head. Then suddenly, with clear voices, they spoke a courteous greeting in their own tongue. Hail, comers from afar, they said, and they turned the hilts of their swords towards the travellers in token of peace. Green gems flashed in the sunlight. Then one of the guards stepped forward and spoke in the common speech. I am the door ward of Theoden, he said. Hammer is my name. Here I must bid you lay aside your weapons before you enter. Then Legolas gave into his hand his silver-hafted knife, his quiver, and his bow. Keep these well, he said, for they have come from the Golden Wood, and the Lady of Lothlorien gave them to me. Wonder came into the man's eyes, and he laid the weapons hastily by the wall, as if he feared to handle them. Well, no man will touch them, I promise you that, he said. Aragorn stood a while hesitating. It is not my will, he said, to put aside my sword or to deliver Andúril to the hand of any other man. Well, it is the will of Theoden, said Hammer. It is not clear to me that the will of Theoden, son of Thengel, even though he be Lord of the Mark, should prevail over the will of Arathorn, son of Arathorn, Elendil's heir of Gondor. This is the house of Theoden, not of Aragorn, even were he a king of Gondor in the seat of Denethor, said Hammer, swiftly stepping before the doors and barring the way. His sword was now in his hand, and the point towards the strangers. Oh, this is idle talk, said Gandalf. Needless is Theoden's demand, but it is useless to refuse. A king will have his way in his own hall, be it folly or wisdom. Truly, said Aragorn, and I would do as the master of the house bade me, were this only a woodman's cot, if I bore now any other sword than Andúril. Whatever its name may be, said Hammer, here you shall lay it, if you would not fight alone against all the men in Edoras. Not alone, said Gimli, fingering the blade of his axe. I wish you didn't make me do this talking, but anyway, he was fingering the blade of his axe and looking darkly up at the guard, as if he were a young tree that Gimli had a mind to fell. Not alone. Come, come, said Gandalf. We are all friends here, or should be, for the laughter of Mordor will be our only reward if we quarrel. My errand is pressing. Here at least is my sword, Goodman Hammer. Keep it well. Glamdring it is called, for the elves made it long ago. Now let me pass. Come, Aragorn. Slowly, Aragorn unbuckled his belt and set his sword upright against the wall. Here I set it, he said, but I command you not to touch it, nor to permit any other to lay hand on it. In this elven sheath dwells the blade that was broken, and has been made again. Oh god, he does do this, I forgot! I forgot! We have to listen to more of this anyway, but anyway, yes, so, Telkar. Is it Telchar or Telkar? I don't know, but one of them. Telkar first wrought it. In the deeps of time, death shall come to any man that draws Elendil's sword, save Elendil's heir. The guard stepped back and looked with amazement on Aragorn. Are you sure it was amazement? It seems that you come on the wings out of song and out of forgotten days, he said. What shall be, my lord, as you command? Well, said Gimli,
As if Anduril, if it has Anduril to keep it company, my axe may stay here too, without shame. And he laid it on the floor. Now then, if all is as you wish, let us go and speak with your master. The guard hesitated. Your staff, he said to Gandalf. Forgive me, but that too must be left at the doors. No foolishness, said Gandalf. Prudence is one thing, but discourtesy. Oh, well, I'm losing all of my voices. Foolishness, said Gandalf. Prudence is one thing, but discourtesy is another. I am old. If I may not lean on my stick as I go, then I will sit out here until it pleases Theoden to hobble out himself to speak with me. Aragorn laughed.
They are so bad at diplomacy. I can't believe how bad they are at this situation of diplomacy.
Aragorn laughed. Every man has something too dear to trust another, but would you part an old man from his support? Come, will you not let us enter? The staff in the hand of a wizard may be more than a prop for age, said Hammer. He looked hard at the ash staff on which Gandalf leaned. Yet in doubt, a man of worth will trust to his own wisdom. I believe you are friends, and folk worthy of honour, who have no evil purpose. You may go in.
Why do you believe this, Hammer? Why do you believe this? Aragorn literally threatened you with death. Why do you believe this? Hammer's a fucking a diviner. He's just like, well, you did threaten me with murder, but I think you meant it as a joke. So
absolutely abysmal. Anyway. Yes, okay. The guards now lifted the heavy bars of the doors and swung them slowly inwards, grumbling on their great hinges. The travellers entered. Inside it seemed dark and warm after the clear air upon the hill. The hall was long and wide and filled with shadows and half-lights. Mighty pillars upheld its lofty roof. But here and there bright sunbeams fell in glimmering shafts from the eastern windows, high under the deep eaves. Though the louver of the roof, above the thin wisps of issuing smoke, through the louver of the roof, above the thin wisps of issuing smoke, the sky showed pale and blue. As their eyes changed, the travellers perceived that the floor was paved with stones of many hues, branching runes and strange devices intertwined beneath their feet. They saw now that the pillars were richly carved, gleaming dully with gold and half-seen colours. Many woven cloths were hung upon the walls, and over their wide spaces marched figures of ancient legend, some dim with years, some darkling in the shade. But upon one form the sunlight fell, a young man upon a white horse. He was blowing a great horn, and his yellow hair was flying in the wind. His horse's head was lifted, and its nostrils were wide and red as it neighed, smelling battle afar. Foaming water, green and white, rushed and curled about its knees. Behold, Eorl the Young, said Aragorn. Thus he rode out to the north, to the battle of the field of Celebrant. Now the four companions went forward, past the clear wood fire burning upon the long hearth in the midst of the hall. Then they halted. At the far end of the house, upon the hearth, and facing towards the doors, was a dais with 3 steps, and in the middle of the dais was a great gilded chair. Upon it sat a man so bent with age that he seemed almost a dwarf, but his white hair was long and thick, and fell in great braids from beneath a thin golden circlet, set upon his brow. In the centre upon his forehead shone a single white diamond. His beard was laid like snow upon his knees, but his eyes still burned with a bright light, glinting as he gazed at the strangers. Behind his chair stood a woman clad in white. At his feet, upon the steps, sat a wizened figure of a man, with a pale, wise face and heavy-lidded eyes. That is an interesting way to describe Grima, that I have not read before, and I'm glad I read it again. A wizened figure of a man with a pale, wise face and heavy-lidded eyes. I think that must be that's Grima, right? Might not be. We'll go on. What have y'all been saying? Hannibek said, oh my god, you said lots. Peter says, I just miss all the flavour we were robbed of in the PJ films. Yep. Hannibek says, Peter Jackson fell for Saruman's lies about Rohan. I swear to God, it's true. You're right, that is true. It's very much, yeah, like they do look like they're all kind of sleeping with the dogs and stuff, don't they? Honeybee says, it's certainly not basic, which I've heard people describe it as. Oh no. Yeah, rightfully angry, Honeybee, yeah. Hannibek says, understandable. Oh my god, I hate this encounter in the PJ films. Or I mean the scene that's coming inside the hall. Yeah, it wasn't the best. And everyone's like, Honeybee says, Alamo, get fucked, Aragon. And then Heraclos comes in for the first time and says, shut up, Aragon. Yes. Little Hedgehog says, but why for Aragorn, Gimli? Why? God, Aragorn, we get it, says Hannibal. Yes. It is, Honeybee says, I appreciate Gimli's throwdown for his friend's attitude, but good God, get better friends, babe. I mean, he just doesn't have that many around at the moment. Little Hedgehog says, guards are definitely planning how they're going to turn this very strange encounter into a funny story to tell at dinner, yeah. Hannibek says, it's like when you work in service and you get a mild but dramatic Karen. Yep. Little Hedgehog says, I love the very vague compliment. I guess you're not straight up evil, so... Is it Grima? Okay. I like that description. That's a very nice, pleasant description for this man. Like, he's just a bit wizened, but he looks wise. With heavy-lidded eyes. Like, he's tired. Like, he's kind of more just worn and tired. I'm going to completely redo my Grima design as soon as I have the strength. There was a silence. The old man did not move in his chair. At length Gandalf spoke. Hail, Theoden, son of Thengel. I have returned. For behold, the storm comes, and now all friends should gather together, lest each singly be destroyed. Slowly the old man rose to his feet, leaning heavily upon a short black staff, with a handle of white bone, and now the strangers saw that, bent though he was still tall, and must in youth have been high and proud indeed. Theoden's voice. Let's try and make it sort of similar to Theoden's voice, the Éomer and Éomer's voice that I would give him a bit of... Oh, let me stretch out my legs. Yes, where was the louver roof, PJ? Where was it? Miserable. Terrible. I greet you, he said, and maybe you look for welcome. But truth to tell, your welcome here is doubtful, Master Gandalf. You have ever been a herald of woe. Trouble follows you like crows, and ever the oftener the worse. I will not deceive you. When I heard that Shadowfax had come back riderless, I rejoiced at the return of the horse, but still more at the lack of the rider. And when Éomer brought the tidings that you had gone at last to your long home, I did not mourn. But news from afar is seldom soothed. Yet here you come again, and with you come evils worse than before, as might be expected. Why should I welcome you, Gandalf? Storm Crow, tell me that. Slowly he sat down again in his chair. You speak justly, Lord, said the pale man, sitting upon the steps of the dais. It is not yet 5 days since the bitter tidings came that Theodred, your son, was slain upon the west marches. Your right hand, second marshal of the Mark. In Éomer there is little trust. Few men would be left to guard your walls if he had been allowed to rule. And even now we learn that from Gondor that the Dark Lord is stirring in the east. Such is the hour in which this wanderer chooses to appear. Why indeed should we welcome you, Master Stormcrow? Laugh spell, I name you. Ill news, and ill news is an ill guest, they say. He laughed grimly, and he lifted his heavy lids for a moment and gazed on the strangers with dark eyes. You are held wise, my friend Wormtongue, and are doubtless a great supporter of your master. answered Gandalf in a soft voice. Yet in 2 ways may a man come with evil tidings. He may be a worker of evil, or he may be such as leaves well alone, and comes only to bring aid in time of need. That is so, said Wormtongue, but there is a third kind, pickers of bones, meddlers in other men's sorrows, carrion fowl that grow fat on war. What aid have you ever brought, Stormcrow, and what aid do you bring now? It was aid from us that you sought last time that you were here. Then my lord bade you choose any horse that you would, and be gone. And to the wonder of all, you took Shadowfax in your insolence. My lord has sorely grieved, yet to some it seemed that to speed you from the land the price was not too great. I guess that it is likely to turn out the same once more. Will you seek aid rather than render it? Do you bring men? Do you bring horses? Swords? Spears? That I would call aid. That is our present need. But who are these that follow your tail? 3 ragged wanderers in grey, and you yourself the most beggar-like of the 4. The courtesy in your hall is somewhat lessened of late, Theoden, son of Thingel, said Gandalf. Was not the messenger from your gate reported the names of my companions? Seldom has any lord of Rohan received such guests. Weapons they have laid at your doors that are worth many a mortal man, even the mightiest. Grey is their raiment, for the elves clad them, and thus they have passed through the shadows of great peril into your hall. Then it is true, as Éomer reported, that you are in league with the sorcerers in the Golden Wood, said Wormtongue. It is not to be wondered at. Webs of deceit are ever woven in Dwymodene. Gimli strode at a pace forward, but suddenly felt a hand of Gandalf clutch him by the shoulder, and he halted, standing stiff as stone. And here we come to the song. I'm gonna try and sing it I have to pause, because nothing Grima or Theoden have said here is at all wrong or bad or a bad thing to say. They're all completely right. They're all absolutely right. Gandalf deserves it. He deserves it completely. He doesn't ever come with any help. He never helps these people. And this is like, nobody tells them this is wrong. Nobody says, no, he does come and help. There's never a point where it's like, oh, well, Grima was lying. No! Gandalf is never helpful, and he's always coming and being a nuisance, and they're so happy to have him gone that they're literally, I will do anything to get rid of you. I will do anything to get rid of you. Please choose any horse. And even when he took Shadowfax, everyone was like, well, he'll be gone faster, so maybe it's a good thing. Nobody mourns for Gandalf. Fucking hilarious, because Gandalf doesn't give a shit about people who are just who are like normal people. He doesn't give a shit. Doesn't give a fuck. Also, wild for him to say that Aragorn, who is not a king yet and might never be, and a elvish prince who never uses this, and Gimli, who I guess is a dwarf prince. I suppose all 3 of them at once is unusual, but in general, like, they've been hosts for like huge part, like that's wild to say that they're the most auspicious guests that 500 years old Edoras has ever found. Anyway, I have a lot to sorry. Hanemek says, I've been thinking about Grima, and he is a man of Rohan, so technically shouldn't he look like the opposite of what PJ made, like blonde and trustworthy? How else would he have gained the trust of Theoden in the first place? So Grima does have dark hair. I think that's canon, and we'll get to it in a second. But that's always, but he definitely is more, like, he shouldn't look, he's wizened because he's quite old, but he definitely, I think the suggestion is that he was a warrior at one stage, because he can use a sword, I think? I'm not sure, but certainly I think there's an awkward and horrible suggestion or hint that I feel Tolkien has given, which is that he's actually of Dunlending descent. He has some Dunlending blood in him, which is yeah. Yeah, but no, he certainly shouldn't. I certainly agree that he shouldn't have looked exactly like Grima in the films looked. It's another thing of like this way of making like I get that there's an amount of visual storytelling to be done in a film, but he could, like, the whole point of him is that he's a sneaky, like, you could have done something more interesting, which would have been to have Grima sound quite reasonable first, and then for the whole thing to turn really weirdly, and for you to slowly realize that Grima is not quite what he says he is. But anyway, yes, Seven Stars, Seven Stones says, I rejoice at the return of the horse, and still more at the absence of the rider. Yes, go off. Yes, I did not mourn. Okay, yes, let's get to this song. Sorry, Peaches also says, hobbits in general, and Theoden shaking hands, plus Grimace hating Gandalf, yes. Excellent. Everyone hates Gandalf. All sensible people hate Gandalf. I can't really say hobbits are sensible because they're classist as hell. But anyway, I'm going to try singing this in Gandalf's voice. This will be hard, but we'll see how it goes. So Gimli strode at a pace forward, but felt suddenly the hand of Gandalf clutch him by the shoulder, and he halted, standing stiff as stone. In Dwymodin, in Lorien, seldom have walked the feet of men. Few mortal eyes have seen the light that lies there ever long and bright. Galadriel, Galadriel, clear is the water of your well. White is the star in your white hand, unmarred, unstained is leaf and land. In Dwymodin, in Lorien, more fair than thoughts of mortal man. Thus Gandalf softly sang, and then suddenly he changed. Casting his tattered cloak aside, he stood up and leaned no longer on his staff, and he spoke in a clear, cold voice. I think that didn't sound too bad. Don't. It's kind of difficult to sing in Gandalf's voice. Because it also says softly, which is hard too. But anyway. Oh, thank you, Hannah. This is exactly. He has to do a little musical number before his dramatic reveal. It's very funny. You speak. The wise speak only of what they know, Grima, son of Galmod. You witless worm a witless worm you have become. Therefore be silent and keep your forked tongue behind your teeth. I have not passed through fire and death to bandy crooked words with a serving man till the lightning falls. He raised his staff. There was a roll of thunder. The sunlight was blotted out from the eastern windows. Holy fuck. The whole hall became suddenly dark as night. The fire faded to sullen embers. Only Gandalf could be seen, standing white and tall before the blackened hearth. In the gloom he heard the hiss of Wormtongue's voice. Did I not counsel you, Lord, to forgive his staff? That fool Hummer has betrayed us. There was a flash, as if lightning had cloven the roof. Then all was silent. Wormtongue sprawled on his face. I totally forgot to say, I will, I hopefully will remember, because I got that from a very unknown, video, the melody. A very unknown video. It has like 4 likes on it, but it deserves way more. This woman did a great job. I will try and link it in the description. I will remember. Anyway. Did Gandalf just use magic to bitch slap Wormtongue? Is that what just happened here? Like, what did he do? Like, what did he do? Like, did he... Like, this is wild. Like, he turns, so he blocks out the sun, and then he starts he causes a roll of thunder, and then everything goes black and dark except him, and then and then and then and then there's a lightning flash, and when they come and when everyone can see again, Grima's just fucking out cold. That's some wild shit that you did, Gandalf. I love that's possible. Raklos makes a good point. I think Gandalf also used magic on the guards back when they were entering Edoras. That's possible. Lilith Hedgehog says Gandalf's magic is 100% powered by drama. Apparently so. Apparently so. And it is very, very funny. It's very funny, unfortunately, that he's just like he could have just punched him, but he decided to use magic. Like, Gandalf Honeybee says Gandalf commits crimes, part 8,089,328. Yes, I know. You were parleying! This was peaceful! Like, come on. Was that the only thing you could do? Like, was it really the best thing? Never mind. And then he has the fucking gall. Like, imagine if this was literally just Theoden completely, like, chill, like sober. And then Gandalf, who has just struck his advisor with lightning, then says, "Now, Theoden, son of Thengel, will you hearken to me?" Said Gandalf. Do you ask for help? He lifted his staff and pointed to a high window. There the darkness seemed to clear, and through the opening could be seen, high and far, a patch of shining sky. Not all is dark. Take courage, Lord of the Mark, for better help you will not find. No counsel have I to give to those that despair, yet counsel I could give, the words I could speak to you. Will you hear them? They are not for all ears. I bid you come out before your doors and look abroad. Too long have you sat in shadows and trusted to twisted tales and crooked promptings. Slowly Theoden left his chair. A faint light grew in the hall again. The woman hastened to the king's side, taking his arm, and with faltering steps the old man came down from the dais and paced softly through the hall. Wormtongue remained lying on the floor. They came to the doors, and Gandalf knocked. "Open," he cried. "The Lord of the Mark comes forth." The doors rolled back, and a keen air came whistling in. A wind was blowing on the hill. "Send your guards down to the stairs' foot," said Gandalf. "And you, lady, leave him a while with me. I will care for him." "Go, Eowyn, sister-daughter," said the old king. "The time for fear is past." The woman turned and went slowly into the house. As she passed the doors, she turned and looked back. Grave and thoughtful was her glance, as she looked on the king with cool pity in her eyes. Very fair was her face, and her long hair was like a river of gold. Slender and tall she was, in her white robe girt with silver, but strong she seemed and stern as steel, the daughter of kings. Thus Aragorn, for the first time in the full light of day, beheld Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, and thought her fair and cold, like a morning of pale spring that is not yet come to womanhood. And she now was suddenly aware of him, tall heir of kings, wise with many winters, grey-cloaked, hiding a power that yet she felt. For a moment still as stone she stood, then turning swiftly, she was gone. What a metal introduction. I have to say, yes, the Aragorn POV is the worst, but the metal introduction of Eowyn, like, looking upon Theoden with pity, with cold pity, like the ice-cold power of Eowyn looking upon this man who she's essentially she'd had to tend to for, like, 5 years or so, and has been left to tend for that whole 5 years. Like, she still has an element of love for him, but a lot of it is just covered with this bitterness that it was a thing that she had to do in the first place. It's a real power moment of Eowyn. Just, like, pity is such a great word. Like, she pities him. Yeah. and that and describing her as cold, it's just kind of fucking badass. It's just kind of badass, and I'm pondering again the decision that Tolkien made here, where what he decided to do was he had an end game for Aragorn. He had an end game, romance for Aragorn, which was Arwen, and we all know that. He never described Arwen properly in any kind of impressive way. Like, he basically just says she's pretty and then moves on. We never really get anything about Arwen. And then he comes in and he introduces Éowyn like this, in this, like, incredibly enigmatic, dynamic manner. And like, they have this, like, intense eye contact from, like, what are you trying to do? Like, of course people are going to ship them more than Arwen and Aragorn. But anyway. Yeah, there was, like, so much, there was a real intensity to that section. It is awful that he had to, like, I do like the fact that they took out the bit where, like, the morning of pale spring, still clinging to winter's chill, for the first time, I'm gonna say, Peter Jackson, this is Philippa Boylan and Fran Walsh, that is a better line than the one that we were given in the book, because having it be, not yet come to womanhood is awful, and I hate it, and I hate that you're making this horny. I hate that you're making it horny whilst also saying that. Wish you didn't, but, you know. Anyway, powerful entrance of Éowyn there. Excellent. And I like the way she, like, you really get a lot of her movements, like the way she moves. So, for example, like, for a moment still as stone she stood, then turning swiftly she was gone. Like, how, that's a really, you get the concept of her having this very, like, tense, dynamic way of moving, where she can be really still, and then she can just sweep away. And she really has a very good control over her motions, and she's queenly, and impressive. Éowyn, I have so many very knotted thoughts about Éowyn. Very knotted, tangled emotions about Éowyn. Yes, I know, it's very funny that the film was like, that was a little bit creepy, Aragorn. Maybe we'll give your lines to Grima. Maybe we'll give your lines to her stalker. Yeah. Dreadful. Okay. "Now, lord," said Gandalf, look out upon your land. Breathe the free air again." From the porch upon the top of the high terrace, they could see beyond. Focus. From the porch upon the top of the high terrace, they could see beyond the stream the green fields of Rohan fading into distant grey. Curtains of wind-blown rain were slanting down. The sky above and to the west was still dark with thunder, and lightning far away flickered among the tops of hidden hills. But the wind had shifted to the north, and already the storm that had come out of the east was receding slowly away southward to the sea. Did Gandalf bring that here? Was that Gandalf? Did Gandalf do that? But anyway, never mind. Southward toward the sea. Suddenly, through a rent in the clouds behind them, a shaft of sun stabbed down. The falling showers gleamed like silver, and far away the river glittered like a shimmering glass. "It is not so dark here," said Theoden. "No," said Gandalf, "nor does age lie so heavily on your shoulders as some would have you think. Cast aside your prop." From the king's hand the black staff fell clattering on the stones. "He's 70! Gandalf! This is like a 78-year-old man, please! Like, does it not? Are you sure it doesn't lie that heavily on him? Are you sure? He's very old. He's not a young man, but okay. Okay. He's not that old, apparently." He drew himself up, slowly, as a man that is stiff from long bending over some dull toil. Now tall and straight he stood, and his eyes were blue as he looked into the opening sky. "Dark have been my dreams of late. Ow.
pulled a muscle in my side on my other side. I pulled a muscle in my side, avoiding the spider, and now I pulled another muscle in my other side. Bugger. Bugger. Ow. Oh, it's Cal. Hello, welcome, Cal. You missed all the Faramir bashing, so so it's a shame. But and you missed. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, you missed you missed the Gandalf and Hammer, very amusing Gandalf and Hammer thing. Squiddly Sal says, "This is grand. I don't think I've seen Squiddly Sal with us before. A wonderful name that I'm very into. What superb name. Very into Squiddly Sal. But welcome in, and if you're new here, then doubly welcome. And yes, we've just gotten to Theoden being coached through some like lightning fast physiotherapy, I guess, is really what this is. Lightning fast physiotherapy by a la Gandalf. What were we? Where were we? Yes. Dark have been my dreams of late, he said, but I feel as one new awakened. I would now that you had come before, Gandalf, for I fear that already you have come too late, only to see the last days of my house. Not long now shall stand the high hall which Brago, son of Eol, built. Fire shall devour the high seat. What is to be done? Much, said Gandalf, but first send for Éomer. Do I not guess rightly that you hold him prisoner by the counsel of Grima? Of him that all save you name the Worm-tongue? That is true, said Theoden. He had rebelled against my commands, and threatened death to Grima in my hall. A man may love you, and yet not love Worm-tongue or his counsel, said Gandalf. That may be. I will do as you ask. Pull Hammer to me. Since he proved untrustworthy as a door ward, let him become an errand runner. The guilty shall bring the guilty to judgment, said Theoden, and his voice was grim. Yet he looked at Gandalf and smiled as he did so many lines of care were smoothed away and did not return. That's not how age works. Sorry, this is just not how age works. I mean, I guess it's just I know. Yes, Rakor says Worm-tongue is a pejorative if Theoden doesn't want to use that name. Yes, yep. The relationship between Worm-tongue and Theoden is so interesting and so intricate that I want to understand it more. They are obviously like he hasn't trusted this man for nothing. Grima has obviously been a good advisor in the past. He was a good advisor. He gave and the fact that Theodred and Éomer never trusted him was probably one of the major issues between Theoden and Theodred and Éomer, and probably one of the things that allowed Worm-tongue and Saruman to get this hold of him. I'm now reading it again. This does not sound this does not sound at all like Theoden has been even, he wasn't brainwashed. This man was just depressed. And being given bad advice. So Theoden wasn't I had been totally taken in by the films for this. Literally, it has been so long since I've read The Two Towers. I've been totally taken in by the films. I was so sure that Saruman was literally controlling Theoden's actions. But no, he wasn't. Theoden was just depressed and just doing what Grima told him to do because he trusted him. So that means that Theoden is literally to blame for most of this. I hadn't even thought of this before. Theoden is entirely to blame. I'm so angry now. Theoden is entirely to blame for everything that's going on here, and now I'm even more angry the way people, like, compare him as, like, the more honourable, noble one in comparison to Denethor. The fucking gall. We're all depressed, Theoden. We're all fucking depressed. Come on. My god. I can't believe I'm really angry. I can't believe I've been so my eyes have been so clouded. Saruman has been clouding my sight. Dark have been my dreams of late. Ugh. God. Theoden was trusting Theodred and Eomer was trusting Grima over his own son and his adopted son on purpose. It was nothing. There was no, like, he wasn't being influenced. He was just, you know, tired and sick and depressed because somebody was making him that way. But he wasn't, like, when Gandalf comes into the room, he doesn't, like, he's not like weirdly, like, sagged, or he doesn't sound completely and utterly like fucking like he can barely think for himself. He's completely conscious. He's completely lucid. This is a fucking this. Yes, Grima. So the canon is that we have is that 5 years ago, Theoden got into a horse ride, some accident, or some I think actually it might have been an injury from war. So he was still riding out to war 5 years ago, but he got injured, and this injury was really grueling on him. He found it really grueling. So and you know, he was less capable afterwards, which meant that he was very depressed. But the thing was that Grima, whilst he was recovering, also was like feeding him poisons to well, that was the suggestion anyway, that Grima was feeding him poisons to kind of keep him in this weakened state. However, Theoden, again, I know what it's like to go through a situation where suddenly you're just kind of less capable physically than usual. And I guess I didn't have one of my friends whispering into my ears to tell me that, my friends were trying to kill me or were dumb or whatever. But I still feel like this is on you, actually. I still feel like it's, like, majorly on Theoden. Like, in the majority, it is on, this whole thing is on Theoden. Like, it's, I said this in the, I said in a post a little while ago about how, you know, Theoden might have been influenced. No, he wasn't. This is entirely his fault. It's entirely his fault. I cannot believe that Peter Jackson had the fucking gall, the absolute fucking gall, to have Theoden portrayed as this noble, like, sad, heroic king that was just sadly, you know, possessed by Saruman, and he's just so much better than Denethor, because where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? I don't know, Theoden, where were you when the Westfold fell? Oh. He did. He had to make it, because he had to make it not about. He had to make it black and white. He had to make it so agonizingly black and white because he knew he was going to be making Denethor into a villain. And he had to have this weird contrast between them. When it's never there, and they're both, like... I'm not going to get over this. I'm not going to get over this, actually. This is absolutely... This is rocking. This is terrible. Theoden is objectively, in every sense of the word, a far worse ruler than Denethor is in every respect. And yet Theoden is the one who Gandalf does his lightning fast fucking depression treatment, whatever the fuck he manages to do to Theoden, lightning fast depression treatment. But Denethor is the one he's like, well, we'll leave him to die. That's a shame. Closes the door. So passes the air of Ecthelion. I'm...
Honeybee says maybe you should have just seized the throne, Theoden. Maybe you should have just done that. Theoden literally says, Lord Grima says like there's a moment where they talk about how if Aemir or Theodred had there's a discussionary moment back in this passage where either Grima or Theoden, I can't remember now, suggests that they did think about him stepping down, but Grima convinced him against it. So again, literally, Theoden is literally like he's just trusting Grima over his own son. Like, I'm just reeling. I'm reeling. Yes, yes. Peaches says, I can't wait until this realization gets posted to Tumblr and I get to read the bad takes and the tags from movie fans only. I know, I'm also... I know. Yes, fuck you, Gandalf. Yes, 7 stars, yes! Honeybee says, your son was 40 Theoden and he was old enough to rule. Give it up, babe. One would fucking hope. But no. Well, because again, Theoden was literally at this moment in time. So, God, my image of Theodred is suddenly like spurred into like I've crystallized everything about Theodred. Of course he's so fucking angry. Of course he's so sharp and trying so fucking hard because Theoden is completely lucid. He's not it's not like he's sitting there like, "Oh, I'm so sad that my father doesn't talk to me anymore." He's like, "My literal dad for his own reasons is looking me in the eye completely of his own accord and saying, you're wrong about these skirmishes you have to fight." And I had to literally like betray his, like I had to go against his law to actually try and fucking defend this land. Theodred had to say to himself, okay, I am about to take off with my whole Aerid, the whole of the Westfold Aerid, just for one last ditch attempt to try and defend my whole country. I will be dying in this attack. I will die, almost certainly. They definitely know we're coming. They definitely know that this is a good strategy. But it's all that's left to us now. And I'm doing this because my father will not trust me. If he had trusted me, this would not have come to it. But my father is literally the reason that I am about to have to kill myself now. I'm about to have to go and die for my country because my father will not listen to me. And that is the most fucking agonizing thing I've ever heard. Faramir and Denethor, who? Faramir and Denethor, who? Who is the abusive father here? Okay, I'm done. I am done. We're gonna keep going. I need a drink of water. Actually, I'm gonna get a drink of water, and then we will continue, and I'll be done. I promise. Hang on. Well, we're just getting some water now. My bottle across the bloody, I'm so fucking angry.
And I don't want to hear one more word about how terrible a Denethor, a situation between Denethor living and Faramir would be. I don't want to hear another word. I don't want to hear another word about how if Denethor had lived and then he'd had to confront Faramir after nearly burning them both alive. I don't want to hear another thing about it. He was trying. That's nothing to me. That's fucking nothing to me. What? Oh, I'm so sorry, my son. I thought we were all fucking gonna die and I didn't want you to get captured and then tortured for 1,000 years in Mordor. I'm so sorry and I feel so guilty, but I don't want to hear another word about it. I don't want to hear another word about it. I want to hear another word about Theoden and Theodred surviving some fucking how and coming home to a completely still lucid, but just now has suddenly decided after Gandalf was the one. You had to listen to Gandalf, not me, your actual son. Why is Éomer not more angry about this? I can only imagine that he is, and is just kind of being a sensible kid and just being like, well, I guess we'll just have to fucking deal with this later, don't we? I guess we'll just have to fucking deal with this family issue later. Because my my elder, basically my uncle in emotion is dead now because of you. You did that to him. I promised that would be the end of it. I did. Let's read what other people are saying, and then we're going to move on. Squidly Sal says, I'm listening to this while doing my history homework, and I keep having to stop to fully appreciate this. Well, yes. I mean, I didn't expect this to happen, but here we are. Raklar says Theoden is responsive to Gandalf's persuasion, while Denethor is not. Theoden understands the actual rules of the game, trusting in mysterious forces and wizards and friendship, so Gandalf favors, but he doesn't trust in forces and he doesn't. No. Because he's literally, it's entirely, Theoden doesn't trust Gandalf because he's a wizard. He's like, there's a moment where Gandalf, this feels like brainwashing, actually, honestly. If I'm gonna be honest, this feels quite a lot like brainwashing. It feels almost like Gandalf is like, depression be gone. Like, it's, he's just like, depression be gone. And then Theoden's like, oh my god, I'm cured now. It's very weird. Because he doesn't trust. It's not because it's Gandalf or because he's a wizard. It's almost completely just because Gandalf exerts influence on him, which he can't do with Denethor, because we've already discovered and know that Denethor is pretty much resistant to wizard nonsense. So he can't. And Gandalf literally says it. Actually, there's a very good Gandalf gives the explanation for why. I mean, I guess this is why Gandalf gives the explanation for why this must happen. Is because outside, before he goes into speak with Denethor, he tells Pippin, listen, Theoden is just a kind old man, but Denethor's actually clever, so you've got to not say anything. That's why. It's nothing. Theoden's just more manipulatable than Denethor is, and that's why Gandalf doesn't try to save him, because he can't manipulate him in the same way that he can manipulate Theoden, so he's useless to him. That's why. I know there's probably fucking but Honeybee says, just imagining Denethor's D&D character sheet saying has resistance to wizard nonsense. Yes, immune to wizards. it just reads in resistances. It's just immune to wizards.
Yeah. Yes, Raklos is right. Oh, Denethor didn't have an evil advisor either. You're right. Yeah, Denethor is just he's doing everything because it's sensible. The things he's doing is sensible, and because he's clever, and he knows that Gandalf wants to manipulate him. I'm losing my mind. He knows that Gandalf wants to manipulate him, but and he's not necessarily against Gandalf. Like, he genuinely, like, Denethor lets Gandalf into the city. He's not like Theoden, and he doesn't say things like, you know, you come bearing ill news as like a cause and effect thing. He's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you probably have good intentions, or you think they're good intentions, but I just don't fucking trust you because you don't tell me anything. And Gandalf's like, well, I don't want to tell you anything because you're a human and you don't suit my purposes, and you're too, and I want Aragorn on the throne. So we're going to keep reading now. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to take another drink of water. I was not expecting this this stream to go this way. I was expecting it to be funny, but never mind. Honeybee says, I've got myself a hunk of bread and some cider to calm down while thinking of all this. That's it's incredibly Rohirrim of you. Incredibly Rohirrim of you. I'm deeply impressed. I love that. Okay. Okay. When Harma had been summoned and had gone, Gandalf led Theoden to a stone seat and then sat himself before the king upon the topmost stair. It's a bit rude, Gandalf. Aragorn and his companions stood nearby. There is no time to tell you all that you should hear, said Gandalf. Yet if my hope is not cheated, the time will come ere long when I can speak more fully. Behold, you are come into peril greater even than the wit of Wormtongue could weave into your dreams. But see, you dream no longer, you live. Gondor and Rohan do not stand alone. The enemy is strong beyond our Yes, actually they do, though, Gandalf. Actually, in fact, they do stand alone. They do. But anyway. The enemy is strong beyond our reckoning, yet we have a hope at which he has not guessed. Quickly now Gandalf spoke. His voice was low and secret, and none save the king heard what he said. But ever as he spoke, the light shone brighter in Theoden's eye, and at the last he rose from his seat into his full height, and Gandalf beside him, and together they looked out from the high place towards the east. So, see also that again. Oh, let's take this. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rakla. Peaches. Very kind of you. Hannah says, it's midnight where I am and I'm really tired, so I'm gonna go to bed. It was really nice. It was really nice. You all kept me company while I wrote a philosophy paper that I hated, and it made it better. I hope I can join next time. I need to be here for when we get to Denethor and more Eowyn. Yes, I will happily have you back, Hannah. Oh, before you go, someone get in the Discord if they want it. If you're still here, say so, and someone will get you the Discord link if you want the Discord link, because there's a Discord now for everyone who listens to the streams. Yeah, like this. Sorry, Lilith Hedgehog says, so Gandalf's really just stepping into Grima's place there by whispering into his ear. Exactly. He's literally sitting here and doing exactly the same thing as Grima did. We don't know what Gandalf says to him here. That's suspicious as all fuck. That's suspicious as all fuck. Gandalf is suspicious as all fuck. I knew Raklos was going to say that. Raklos says, oh, this makes me hate but also love Gandalf. I knew it! Because it makes him into a grotty little man. And we know Raklos loves grotty little men. See you, Hanbeck. Have a nice rest, and I hope your philosophy paper was not too grueling. Verily, said Gandalf, now in a loud voice, keen and clear. That way lies our hope, where sits our greatest fear. Doom hangs still on a thread, yet hope there is still, if we can but stand unconquered for a little while. The others too now turned their eyes eastward. Over the sundering leagues of land, far away, they gazed to the edge of sight, and hope and fear bore their thoughts still on, beyond dark mountains to the land of shadow. Where now was the ring-bearer? How thin indeed was the thread upon which doom still hung. It seemed to Legolas, as he strained his far-seeing eyes, that he caught a glint of white. Far away, perchance, the sun twinkled on a pinnacle of the Tower of God. And further still, endlessly remote, and yet a present threat, there was a tiny tongue of flame. So, I think Legolas is... So, Legolas says, he caught a glint of white far away, perchance the sun twinkled on a pinnacle of the Tower of God. I suppose that's more just about Minas Tirith and having a tall... having just tall towers and stuff. And Raklos, yes, you are entirely that transparent. Yes. But it's good. We love you for it so much. It's one of your most endearing qualities. Prince of Calder says, Legolas can see Minas Tirith from Edoras? What the fuck? I know. It's wild, isn't it? I could try getting up a map to see how he's fucking seeing that. 'Cause yeah, that's impossible. There's absolutely no way for him to be able to see that. Tolkien, even you are doing a bad job at this. Come on. Even if he could see the whole world as flat, which I'm still not entirely sure. There's a mountain in the way. There's a whole mountain. There's a whole mountain in the way, and he can't see the mountains as flat. So I don't know why. Anyway. Slowly, Theoden sat down again, as if weariness still struggled to master him against the will of Gandalf. He turned and looked at his great house. Alas, he said, that these evil days should be mine, and should come in my old age instead of that peace which I have earned. Alas for Boromir the brave, the young perish and the old linger, withering. He clutched his knees with his wrinkled hands. Your fingers will remember their old strength better if they grasped a sword hilt, said Gandalf. Theoden rose and put his hand to his side, but no sword hung at his belt. Where has Grima stowed it? He muttered under his breath. Take this, dear lord, said a clear voice. Oh, wait. Don't know which person said that. Take this, dear lord, said a clear voice. It was ever at your service. Two men had come softly up the stair, and stood now a few steps from the top. Éomer was there. No helm was on his head, no mail was on his breast, but in his hand he held a drawn sword, and as he knelt he offered the hilt to his master. How come this? Said Theoden sternly. He turned towards Éomer, and the men looked in wonder at him, standing now proud and erect. Where was the old man whom they had left crouching in his chair or leaning on his stick? It is my doing, lord, said Hammer, trembling. I understood that Éomer was to be set free. Such joy was in my heart that maybe I have erred. Yet since he was free again, and he is a marshal of the Mark, I brought him his sword as he bade me. To lay at your feet, my lord, said Éomer. For a moment of silence, Theoden stood looking at Éomer as he knelt still before him. Neither moved. Will you not take the sword? Said Gandalf. Slowly Theoden stretched forth his hand. As his fingers took the hilt, it seemed to the watchers that firmness and strength returned to his thin arm. Suddenly he lifted the blade and swung it, shimmering and whistling in the air. Then he gave a great cry. His voice rang clear as he chanted in the tongue of Rohan, a call to arms. Arise now, arise, riders of Theoden. Dire deeds awake, dark is it eastward. Let horse be bridled, horn be sounded. Forth, Eorlingas. The guards, thinking that they were summoned, sprang up the stair. They looked at their lord in amazement, and then, as one man, they drew their swords and laid them at his feet. Command us, they said. Now how do I say this? Westu Theoden Hall, cried Éomer. It is a great joy to us to see you return to your own. Never again shall it be said, Gandalf, that you come only with grief. Take back your sword, Éomer, sister son, said the king. Go hammer and seek my own sword. Grima has it in his keeping. Bring him to me also. Now, Gandalf, you said that you had counsel to give, if I would hear it. What is your counsel? Well, you have already taken it, answered Gandalf. To put your trust in Éomer, rather than in a man of crooked mind, to cast aside regret and fear, to do the deed at hand. Every man that can ride should be sent west at once, as Éomer counselled you. We must first destroy the threat of Saruman, while we have time. If we fail, we fall. If we succeed, then we will face the next task. Meanwhile, your people that are left, the women and the children and the old, should fly to the refuges that you have in the mountains. Were they not prepared against just such an evil day as this? Let them take provision, but delay not, nor burden themselves with treasures, great or small. It is their lives that are at stake. This counsel seems good to me now, said Theoden. Let all my folk get ready, but you, my guests, truly, you said, Gandalf, that the courtesy of my hall is lessened. You have ridden through the night, and the morning wears away. You have neither sleep nor food. A guest house shall be made ready. There you shall sleep when you have eaten. Nay, lord, said Aragorn, there is no rest yet for the weary. The men of Rohan must ride forth today, and we will ride with them. Axe, sword, and bow. We did not bring them to rest against your wall, Lord of the Mark, and I promised Éomer that my sword and his should be drawn together. Now, indeed, there is hope of victory, said Éomer. Hope, yes, said Gandalf, but Isengard is strong, and other perils draw ever nearer. Do not delay, Theoden. When we are gone, lead your people swiftly to the hold of Dunharrow in the hills. Nay, Gandalf, said the king, you do not know your own skill in healing. It shall not be so. I, myself, will go to war, to fall in the front of the battle if it must be. Thus I shall sleep better. Then even the defeat of Rohan will be glorious in song, said Aragorn. The armed men that stood near clashed their weapons, crying, The Lord of the Mark will ride, forth Eolingas. But your people must not be both unarmed and shepherdless, said Gandalf. Who shall guide them and govern them in your place? I shall take a thought for that ere I go, answered Theoden. Here comes my counsellor.
What have y'all been saying? Seven stars from so says Aragorn. Shut the fuck up. Yes, I know. Ragnar says, suicidal, yes, this is what I was just about to stop to talk about this. I am vindicated in every possible way. Theoden wants to fucking die. Theoden fucking wants to die. He's really not thinking about much other than having a glorious death at this moment. And actually this now, here, like as much as obviously everyone is pretty glad that he said this, everyone was fully ready for Theoden to not say it. Like they were perfectly happy and content with the idea that Theoden wasn't going to go to war, and that would have been the better choice, probably. Although now I'm thinking about it, maybe it wasn't. Maybe Theoden was better off dead because he was such a bad king. But I guess it would have been better for him to try, maybe, and do better. Maybe he could have helpfully given Éomer over the like reins, as it were. Ha 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 ha. Rohan pun. But yes, Theoden just fucking goes to war and doesn't really give much of a think about it. Yes, him thinking of Boromir is very interesting. Again. Sorry, Honeybee says Theoden thinking of Boromir. Wow, I'm well gel, yeah. The intrigue so again, I'm once again vindicated. Theoden knew Boromir personally. Theoden knew Boromir personally, and Éomer knew Boromir personally, and I'm vindicated. But yeah, so Theoden just fucking, I feel like I'm missing some chat. Sorry, Prince of Kalador says, I seem to not be seeing most of the chat messages, sad times. I feel like I'm missing some chat messages. I feel like some chat messages are just, like, going missing. Because I feel like you've been posting all that, but which would be a great shame. So if I haven't replied to something, do send it again. But yes, so Theoden really is not thinking about doing anything for
for his people or trying to succeed in this in any way. Theoden wants to go and die. He's had enough. He did a bad job, and now he just wants to fucking die. Which, I mean, it's understandable, given the fact that actually this was his doing all by himself, and he was just taken in by bad people, and that was really it. He just made a tragic, somewhat and hard, difficult to forgive mistake. But like, again, we would prefer that you didn't die, and I think Éomer would prefer that you didn't die. Theoden, they really would rather that you stuck around. I mean, I guess I know Theoden's dead, and that must be hard on you. Although I feel like we haven't gotten. I think does he mention Theoden later? I don't know, but we'll see. Hang on. At that moment, Harmer came again from the hall. Behind him, cringing between two other men, came Grima the Worm-tongue. His face was very white, his eyes blinked in the sunlight. Harmer knelt and presented to Theoden a long sword in a scabbard clasped with gold and set with green gems. "Here, Lord, is Hergrim, your ancient blade," he said. It was found in a chest, It was found in a chest. Loath was he to render up the keys. Many other things are there which men have missed. "You lie," said Worm-tongue. "This sword your master himself gave into my keeping." "And he now requires it of you again," said Theoden. "Does that displease you?" "Assuredly not, lord," said Worm-tongue. "I care for you and yours as best I may. But do not weary yourself, or tax too heavily your strength. Let others deal with these irksome guests. Your meat is about to be set at the board. Will you not go to it?" "I will," said Theoden. I feel like Theoden and Grima's voice are very similar. I'm trying to figure out ways of just... "I will," said Theoden. "And let food for my guests be set on the board beside me. The host rides today. Send the heralds forth. Let them summon all who dwell nigh, every man and strong lad, able to bear arms. All who have horses, let them be ready in the saddle at the gate ere the 2nd hour from noon." "Dear lord," cried Worm-tongue, "it is as I feared. This wizard has bewitched you. Are none to be left to defend the golden hall of your fathers and all your treasure? None to guard the Lord of the Mark?" "It is this. If this is a bewitchment," said Theoden, "it seems to me more wholesome than your whisperings." This is very meta now. This is quite a meta discussion now. "Your leechcraft, ere long, would have had me crawling on all fours like a beast. No, not one shall be left, not even Grima. Grima shall ride too. Go, you have yet time to clean the rust from your sword." "Oh, mercy, lord," whined Worm-tongue, grovelling on the ground. "Have pity on one worn out in your service. Send me not from your side. I at least will stand by you when all others have gone. Do not send your faithful Grima away." "You have my pity," said Theoden, "and I do not send you from my side. I go myself to war with my men. I bid you come with me and prove your faith." Worm-tongue looked from face to face. In his eyes was the hunted look of a beast seeking some gap in the ring of his enemies. He licked his lips with a long pale tongue. Oh dear. "Such a resolve might be expected from the lord of the house of Eol, old though he may be," he said. "But those who truly love him would spare his failing years. Yet I see I have come too late. Others whom the death of my lord would perhaps grieve less have already persuaded him. If I cannot undo their work, hear me at least in this, lord. One who knows your mind and honours your commands should be left in Edoras. Appoint a faithful steward. Let your counsellor Grima keep all things till your return, and I pray that we may see it, though no wise man will deem it hopeful." Éomer laughed. "And if that plea does not excuse you from war, most noble Worm-tongue," he said, "what office of less honour would you accept? To carry a sack of meal up into the mountains, if any man would trust you with it?" Nay, Eomer, you do not fully understand the mind of Master Wormtongue, said Gandalf, turning his piercing gaze upon him. He is bold and cunning. Now he plays a game with peril and wins a throw. Hours of my precious time he has wasted already. Down, Snake, he said suddenly, in a terrible voice. Down on your belly. How long has it been since Saruman bought you? What was the promised price? When all the men are dead, you were to pick your share of the treasure and take the woman you desire. Too long have you watched her under your eyelids and haunted her steps. Eomer grasped his sword. That I knew already, he muttered. For that reason I would have slain him before, forgetting the law of the hall. But there are other reasons. He stepped forward, but Gandalf stayed him with a hand. Owen is safe now, he said. But you, Wormtongue, you have done what you could for your master. Some reward you have earned at least. Yet Saruman is apt to overlook his bargains. I should advise you to go quickly and remind him, lest you forget his
Oh, and here we go. Sorry, we're back at it again, because I totally forgot, actually, because it does mean that Theoden was also perfectly lucid and conscious as Grima was stalking Eowyn around the house. He was perfectly lucid. Eomer, probably, almost certainly, literally went to Theoden, like, Grima is stalking and harassing your adopted daughter, and will you do anything about it? And Theoden's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. I keep saying that, like, I have a little, like, volume noticer that goes, and every now and then it just goes all full red, because I'm so angry. But no, Theoden was totally content to allow Eowyn to just be sexually harassed in his own home for 5 years. But no, Denethor's the bad one. Denethor's the bad one because he expects Faramir to do his job. He just expects Faramir to do his job, and obviously that means he's the bad one. Anyway, I have another drink of water.
Owen is safe now, he said. But you, Wormtongue, you have done what you could for your master. Some reward you have earned at least. Yet Saruman is apt to overlook his bargains. I should advise you to go quickly and remind him, lest he forget your faithful service. You lie, said Wormtongue. That word comes too oft and easy from your lips, said Gandalf. I do not lie. See, Theoden, here is a snake. With safety you cannot take it with you, nor can you leave it behind. To slay it would be just, but it is not always as it is now. Once it was a man, and did you service in its fashion. Give him a horse, and let him go at once wherever he chooses. By his choice you shall judge him.
And we have to stop again. Gandalf is making probably the worst decision he's ever made, bar perhaps the one time he led everybody into Moria. Because this is the bit where Grima goes and tells Saruman everything that they're going to do and all their plans, and then is directly responsible for a lot of men's deaths. But no, Gandalf has to be the noble one. Yes, so Rakos says Grima does play his role later by killing Saruman. That is a long time later. And again, they also could have killed Saruman. So also he's just kind of... No, but okay, was Errol's plan all along. But Gandalf could have done it also. Or at any time. Or anybody else, for that matter. He was just stuck up there. They could have just gone up and killed him. But no. Gandalf is playing the dumb game. Gandalf is playing the fool's game. Gandalf is playing the... I'm going to pretend that I know more than anybody else, but I'm actually just making this up all this up as I go along. And hoping it works out. I'm so angry. We're going to fucking get through this bit. I promise.
Do you hear this, Wormtongue? Said Theoden. This is your choice, to ride with me to war, and let us see in battle whether you are true, or to go now, whither you will. But then, if we ever meet again, I shall not be merciful.
Slowly, Wormtongue rose. He looked at them with half-closed eyes. Last of all he scanned Theoden's face and opened his mouth as if to speak. Then suddenly he drew himself up. His hands worked, his eyes glittered. Such malice was in them that men stepped back from him. He bared his teeth, and with a hissing breath he spat before the king's feet and darted to one side. He fled down the stair.
After him, said Theoden. See that he does no harm to any, but do not hurt him or hinder him. Give him a horse if he wishes it.
If any will bear him, said Éomer. One of the guards ran down the stair. Another went to the well at the foot of the terrace, and in his helm drew water. With it he washed clean the stones that Wormtongue had defiled.
Now, my guests, come, said Theoden. Come and take such refreshment as haste allows.
They passed back into the great house. Already they heard below them in the town the heralds crying and the war horns blowing, for the king was to ride forth as soon as the men of the town and those dwelling near could be armed and assembled. At the king's board sat Éomer and the 4 guests, and there also waiting upon the king was the lady Éowyn. She ate and drank swiftly. The others were silent while Theoden questioned Gandalf concerning Saruman.
How far does his treachery go? How far back his treachery goes? Who can guess?
Oh, sorry.
How far back his treachery goes? Who can guess? Said Gandalf. He was not always evil. Once, I do not doubt, that he was the friend of Rohan, and even when his heart grew colder, he found you useful still. But for long now he has plotted your ruin, wearing the mask of friendship until he was ready. In those years, Wormtongue's task was easy, and all that you did was swiftly known to Isengard. For your land was open, and strangers came and went, and ever Wormtongue's whispering was in your ears, poisoning your thought, chilling your heart, weakening your limbs, while others watched and could do nothing, for your will was in his keeping. But when I escaped and warned you, then the mask was torn, for those who would see. After that, Wormtongue played dangerously, always seeking to delay you, to prevent your full strength being gathered. He was crafty, dulling men's wariness, or working on their fears, as served the occasion. Do you not remember how eagerly he urged that no man should be spared on a wild goose chase northward, when the immediate peril was westward? He persuaded you to forbid Éomer to pursue the raiding orcs. If Éomer had not defied Wormtongue's voice speaking with your mouth, those orcs would have reached Isengard by now, bearing a great prize. Not indeed that prize which Saruman desires above all else, but at least 2 members of my company, sharers of a secret hope, of which even to you, Lord, I cannot yet speak openly. Dare you think of what they might now be suffering, or what Saruman might now have learned to our destruction?
But when I escaped and warned you, then the mask was torn, for those who would see. So Gandalf is essentially saying that it was that he was the one who, Gandalf is essentially saying that because when he came to Rohan and warned them all, he was the one that got everyone to start mistrusting Grima. But that's not true, because Éomer and Theodred mistrusted him for ages. Hello, Danny. Danny says, I come in and it seems Aaron's frustrated with Gandalf again. Oh, Danny, you missed the big thing that recently happened. You're gonna have to listen back to this one because, oh boy. But yeah. So Gandalf here is suggesting,
So ever Wormtongue's whispering was in your ears, poisoning your thought, chilling your heart, weakening your limbs, while others watched and could do nothing, for your will was in his keeping. So what he's suggesting here is that Grima put him under a spell, but I don't think that's true. He kind of bespelled him. And he definitely was lucid. And so Gandalf is kind of here, giving Theoden essentially, a way out. I don't know. It's a complicated. He's just lying, or he's not lying, but he's wording it in a way that's odd, or yeah. So it's this bit that's why people think that Theoden was essentially possessed, but he definitely wasn't. He had literally all he's saying is that Grima was talking to him. His will wasn't in his keeping. He was just deciding to trust Grima more than anybody else. Anyway, the mask was torn for those who would see. Oh, so here he's saying, okay, when I escaped and warned you, then the mask was torn for those who would see. For those who would see was not Theoden. Theoden specifically would not see this. So he's still saying, yes, Theoden is not, just decided not to see. He decided not to notice. Okay, we're moving on. I owe much to Éomer, said Theoden. Faithful heart may have forward tongue. Say also, said Gandalf, that to crooked eyes truth may wear a wry face. Indeed, my eyes were almost blind, said Theoden. Most of all I owe to you, my guest. Once again you have come in time. I would give you a gift ere we go, at your own choosing. You have only to name all that is mine. I reserve now only my sword. Whether I came in time or not is yet to be seen, said Gandalf. But as for your gift, lord, I will choose one that will fit my need, swift and sure. Give me Shadowfax. He was only lent before, if loan we may call it, but now I shall ride him into great hazard, setting silver against black. I would not risk anything that is not my own, and already there is a bond of love between us. You choose well, said Theoden, and I give him now gladly, yet it is a great gift. There is none like to Shadowfax. In him one of the mighty steeds of old has returned. None such shall return again. And to you, my other guests, I shall offer such things as may be found in my armoury. Swords you do not need, but there are helms and coats of mail of cunning work, gifts of my fathers out of Gondor. Oh, gifts to my fathers out of Gondor. Choose from these ere we go, and may they serve you well.
Ooh! This is neat! Gifts to my fathers out of Gondor. He means gifts as in Thengel was given, like literally, like Thengel was given swords and stuff because he was in Gondor for so long. I mean, I guess also they could have given him other weapons and armor and stuff, but I do think most likely it is that Thengel, living in Gondor for such a long time, had like he's talking about the gifts that Thengel was given by Turgon, because they had such cool, which is cute, a cute little note which I quite like. Honeybee says, this is like, if she drowns she wasn't a witch, if she floats she is a witch and we'll kill her. That's the style of logic Gandalf's employing here. Oh yes, for Grima give him a horse and judge him from where he goes. Fuck off, Gandalf. Yes, you're completely right. Ragnar says, I completely agree that this is not how you're supposed to show mercy. Well, he's just a worm. What can he do? He was not always evil. He was just always a bitch. That's a good one. Honeybee says, Theoden's personification of the I am not looking, I do not see meme. Yes. Yes, Civilization says, if loan we may call it. I know. He's so snarky, this bastard. This little rat wizard bastard. Of course Rakdos likes him. Now men came bearing raiment of war from the king's hoard,
and they arrayed Aragorn and Legolas in shining mail. Helms too they chose, and round shields. Their bosses were overlaid with gold and set with gems, green and red and white. Gandalf took no armour, and Gimli heeded no coat of rings, even if one had been found to match his stature, for there was no hauberk in the hordes of Edoras of better make than his short corslet forged within the mountain of the north. But he chose a cap of iron and leather that fitted well upon his rounded head, and a small green shield he also took. It bore the running horse, white upon green, that was the emblem of the house of Eorl. "May it keep you well," said Theoden. "It was made for me in Thingol's day, while I was still a boy."
Aww! Oh, that's cute! That's very cute! Oh, yes, so that would have been while he was still in Gondor. Rakla says, hey, I haven't decided if I like Gandalf yet. Don't push me into that well, I'm so sorry. I'll wait for you to make the bad decision by yourself. Sorry, I'm very mean. But yeah, it's very cute, Gimli bowed.
"Oh, I am proud, Lord of the Mark, to bear your device," he said. "Indeed, sooner I would bear a horse than be borne by one. I love my feet better, but maybe I shall come yet where I can stand and fight." "It may well be so," said Theoden.
The king now rose, and at once Éowyn came forward bearing wine.
"Furthu Theoden Hal," she said, "receive now this cup, and drink in happy hour. Health be with thee at thy going and coming." Theoden drank from the cup, and she then proffered it to the guests. As she stood before Aragorn, she paused suddenly and looked upon him, and her eyes were shining. And he looked upon her fair face and smiled, but as he took the cup, his hand met hers, and he knew that she trembled at the touch. Oh, God. "Hail, Aragorn, son of Arathorn," she said. "Hail, Lady of Rohan," he answered, but his face now was troubled, and he did not smile.
That's so horny. That's so horny. God, it's so distressing to like go from like a completely sexless narrative to sudden horniness, even though it's like the barest mention. Just the sudden horniness of it is just it's a lot to deal with. Because we've not gotten any description of like even characters' movements bar like the bare minimum up until this point, and now you're telling us that their like hands are touching. Like, it's too much for me. It's like I'm a Georgian lady and I've just seen someone's ankle. Like, it's just too much. It's the lust. I like the fact that the hint is also that Aragorn is now conflicted. I mean, I guess this is entirely like realistically speaking, this is the gauntlet that Aragorn has to face. It's not. He's like, he'll do the fighting, whatever. The gauntlet that Tolkien gives him is can you resist the temptation of other ladies who you find attractive? For your other lady who you also find attractive, but she's just very far away right now. And an elf for some reason. Aragorn's just, I guess he's sexy. I don't think he is. I guess that now he's supposed to be sexy because he looks more like a king for some reason. We don't know why. Don't know why Éowyn has bad taste. I guess she just likes tall men, really, is all we're talking about here. She just likes tall men who are up themselves. That's really it. She just likes tall men who are really up themselves. Do you have a massive ego? Is it not really that well earned? Well, I'm your woman, says Éowyn. Ragnar says, but Aragorn's a virgin, never forget. No, we can never forget that Aragorn is a virgin. An 87-year-old virgin would never forget that. I do love the concept that... Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Danny says Merry is tall for a hobbit. He is, it's true. Not tall enough for Éowyn though, which is a shame. And also Merry is too, he's too not up himself.
she does have exceedingly low standards. It's true. Mary would be much better for her, and it is a shame. It is a crying shame. Yeah. Like, she just rebounds right onto Faramir, like, immediately. Like, are you sure, Eowyn? Do you want to try again? I feel like you needed some time. Maybe take some time away from Faramir and see that the world is full of men, and some of them are nice. I mean, I know you've been locked up with Theoden and Grima for a really long time, and you haven't really seen your brother very much, and I get that. But maybe like somebody else should tell her that men can be like good and fun to talk to sometimes. Maybe somebody should tell her that. I wish Eoreth had like taken her aside and been like, listen, I know Faramir's pretty and all, but I've known him since he was a child, and this man is impossible and miserable to talk to. Maybe, and I know you might think you like him, but try any other man. Any of them. There are so many. There are less now because they've all been killed in the war, but there are still quite a lot more men than just Faramir and Aragorn, and maybe you should try looking at those ones first. Yeah. Honeybee says, Eowyn, please, Mary is soon to be right there. Yes. Then he says, they just bond over their love for Aragorn. That is true. They are just like, they're just like royalists, I guess. And then they bond over the fact that they're royalists. Seven Stars, Seven Stones says truth, but also Faramir and Eowyn are perfect for each other. This is a hill I will die on. I mean, yes, I'm weird on Faramir and Eowyn. I technically agree that they are good for each other. I hate it. Because it was one of the first. It broke my heart when I was a child. I didn't know why at the time, but there was for some reason, Eowyn, the super cool, fighting, cold, severe, angry woman, who was very androgynous, just was like, well, now I'm married to Faramir. And I was like, why does this make me so sad? Why does this make me so angry and hurt and sad? Later I discovered why. It's the gay, but also, again, logically and just textually, it makes sense that she and Faramir would get together, and they are good for each other. Ish. Yes. So, but let's keep going. Okay. When they'd all drunk, the king went down the hall to the doors, where the guards awaited him, and heralds stood, and all the lords and chiefs were gathered together that remained in Edoras, or dwelt nearby. Behold, I go forth, and it seems like to be my last riding, said Theoden. I have no child. Theodred, my son, is slain. I name Eomer, my sister son, to be my heir. If neither of us return, then choose a new lord as you will. But to someone I must now entrust my people that I leave behind, to rule them in my place. Which of you will stay? No man spoke. Is there none whom you would name? In whom do my people trust? In the house of Eorl, answered Hammer. But Eomer I cannot spare, nor would he stay, said the king, and he is the last of that house. I said not Eomer, answered Hammer. He is not the last. There is Eowyn, daughter of Eomund, his sister. She is fearless and high-hearted. All love her. Let her be the lord to the Eolingas while we are gone. It shall be so, said Theoden. Let the heralds announce to the folk that Lady Eowyn will lead them. Then the king sat upon a seat before his doors, and Eowyn knelt before him, and received from him a sword and a fair corslet. Farewell, sister-daughter, he said. Dark is the hour, yet maybe we shall return to the Golden Hall. But in Dunharrow the people may long defend themselves, and if the battle go ill, thither will come all who escape. Speak not so, she answered. A year shall I endure for every day that passes until your return. But as she spoke, her eyes went to Aragorn, who stood nearby. The king shall come again, he said. Fear not. Not west, but east does our doom await us. Okay, Aragorn. Glad you know that. Don't know why you do. Don't know if it you the one who said that. We'll assume it was. Yes, she is fearless and high-hearted, and all love her. Ugh. How can you how can you big up Éowyn this much, and then tell us, like, I don't want her to be into Aragorn, and I don't want them to get married, but I certainly prefer her as a character to have as a romance option for our main character, other than the woman we never meet again for the rest of the book. Danny says if we just use Whiteout over Aragorn, then this scene would be great. It's true. The king now went down the stair with Gandalf beside him. The others followed. Aragorn looked back as they passed towards the gate. Alone, Éowyn stood. Oh my god, stop it! I get it, they're horny for each other, we get it, Tolkien, we know! This is worse than you making me say figuring so much. Alone, Éowyn stood before the doors of the house at the stair's head. The sword was set upright before her, and her hands were laid upon the hilt. She was clad now in mail, and shone like silver in the sun. Gimli walked with Legolas, his axe on his shoulder. Well, at least we're set off, he said. Men need many words before deeds. My axe is restless in my hands, though I doubt not that these Rohirrim are fell-handed when they come to it. Nonetheless, this is not the warfare that suits me. How shall I come to the battle? I wish I could walk and not bump like a sack at Gandalf's saddlebow. A safer seat than many, I guess, said Legolas. Yet doubtless Gandalf will gladly put you down on your feet when blows begin. Or Shadowfax himself. An axe is no weapon for a rider. And a dwarf is no horseman. It is orc necks I would hew, not shave the scalps of men, said Gimli, patting the haft of his axe. At the gate they found a great host of men, old and young, already in the saddle. More than 1,000 were there mustered. These spears were like a springing wood. Loudly and joyously they shouted as Theoden came forth. Some held in readiness the king's horse, Snowmane, and others held the horses of Aragorn and Legolas. Gimli stood ill at ease, frowning, but Éomer came up to him, leading his horse. Hail, Gimli, Glóin's son, he cried. I have not had time to learn gentle speech under your rod, as you promised, but shall we not put aside our quarrel? At least I will speak no evil again of the Lady of the Wood. Well, I will forget my wrath for a while, Éomer, son of Éomer, said Gimli. But if you ever chance to see the Lady Galadriel with your own eyes, then I shall acknowledge her, and then you shall acknowledge her the fairest of all ladies, or our friendship will end. So be it, said Éomer. But until that time, pardon me, and in token of pardon, ride with me, I beg. Gandalf will be at the head with the Lord of the Mark, but Firefoot, my horse, will bear us both, if you will. Oh, I thank you indeed, said Gimli, greatly pleased. I will gladly go with you, if Legolas, my comrade, may ride beside us. It shall be so, said Éomer. Legolas upon my left, and Aragorn upon my right, and none will dare to stand before us. Where is Shadowfax? Said Gandalf. Running wild over the grass, they answered. He will let no man handle him. There he goes, away down by the ford, like a shadow among the willows. Gandalf whistled, and called aloud the horse's name, and far away he tossed his head and neighed, and turning, sped towards the host like an arrow. Were the breath of the west wind to take a body visible, even so would it appear, said Éomer, as the great horse ran up, until he stood before the wizard. The gift seems already to be given, said Theoden, but hearken all. Here now I name my guest, Gandalf Greyhame, wisest of counsellors, most welcome of wanderers, a lord of the Mark, a chieftain of the Eolingas while our kin still last, and I will give to him Shadowfax, Prince of Horses. Why, thank you, Theoden King, said Gandalf. Then suddenly he threw back his grey cloak and cast aside his hat and leapt to horseback. He wore no helm nor mail. His snowy hair flew free in the wind. His white robes shone dazzling in the sun. Behold the White Rider, cried Aragorn, and all took up the words. Our king and the White Rider, they shouted. Forth, Eolingas! The trumpets sounded, the horses reared and neighed, spears clashed on shield. Then the king raised his hand, and with a rush like the sudden onset of a great wind, the last host of Rohan rode thundering into the west. Far over the plain, Eowyn saw the glitter of their spears as she stood still, alone, before the doors of the silent house. And then now we're on Chapter 7, Helm's Deep. That ending is fucking, wild. That's a lot of emotions. A lot of emotions happen there, for me. Racklow says Tolkien should be banned from writing horniness. He definitely should. I think Tolkien would like that. I think Tolkien would be very glad if, like, somebody would be like, Tolkien, you're banned, and he was like, oh, thank God. Thank God I never have, I don't know what came over me. Yes, this is sweet. Éomer and Gimli's friendship is very sweet. I do like it quite a lot. It's very funny. It's very funny. It's a very funny image. Like, the whole thing is very funny. Like, Gandalf, and he's like he's an old man, but he's, like, I guess it's kind of cool. He's like this really old man, but everyone's like, you're super cool, Gandalf. We all love you so much. Because you're getting us to go to war? Question mark? I guess they just all really like war a lot. This is Faramir's thing. But Faramir, God, even more gall for Faramir to say things like, you know, the Rohirrim love war. Like, if the Rohirrim hadn't fucking done this, then they would all be bloody dead. So I guess they just have to like this. Like, they might as well like it. They might as well be into it. Honeybee said, Gimli and Éowyn were the only reason I survived this chapter. Well, don't forget Harmer. Don't forget Harmer. We all miss Harmer and his sensibleness. Yeah. I'm pondering whether to continue now or to stop there. It seems like a good place to stop. But we could go on a little bit longer. We could get to Helm's Deep. No, I think probably now is a good time to stop. For just to safeguard my own head as well. My blood pressure has risen a full 30 points because of this stream. So maybe we'll leave whatever happens in Helm's Deep. I really haven't read this book in so fucking long. I've totally forgotten everything that happens. After this bit especially, I've totally forgotten everything that happens. So we're gonna have a fun time. We're gonna have a nice fun time this bit. I'm really gonna dig down into what Tolkien did. Sorry, what Peter Jackson did to us, to me specifically. Yeah. I think that'll probably be it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to write a post, huh? Gonna have to write a post about that. God, the next person that tries to tell me any shit about Denethor and Faramir, I'm gonna be just so angry. I'm gonna just fucking launch myself across the internet and just like a rabid dog in terror. I'm just like the gall. The gall, can you imagine? Can you imagine Peter Jackson's gall to turn this whole situation into a Denethor bad, Theoden good situation? The fucking gall. No wonder he defanged Éowyn's, like, admittedly I'm sad that we're stopping here because we haven't gotten to Éowyn's, furious, bitter, tirade, but yeah, yeah, just what, what a, what a time, what a thing. Night, little hedgehog. Right, yes, yes. So we're off. That's it. We'll stop here, and I'll put the stream up on the thing, and yeah. Yep. Good night, everybody. Night.